Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about human potential and self-realization.
Okay.
And the source material that we have is a YouTube interview with RJ Spina, who's had quite a journey of self-healing.
Yeah.
And, the interview is just full of thought-provoking ideas about, what it means to be human and our true potential and all of that.
Right.
So I'm really excited to dive into this
Me too.
and see what kind of insights we can glean from his perspective.
Yeah, I find Spina's work to be so fascinating, particularly the way he challenges us to rethink, what it actually means to be human.
Yeah.
He kind of starts off by, introducing this concept of personhood,
Okay.
which he describes as like a limited perception of ourselves.
Okay, so what exactly does he mean by personhood being a limitation?
Well, he suggests that we often mistake ourselves, for our physical bodies and
Right.
the data we gather through our five
Yeah.
senses. It's like
Yeah.
we're defining ourselves solely by what we can see, touch, taste, hear, and smell.
Hmm. And that creates this, limited reality.
Yeah, it's like we're only experiencing a tiny fraction of what's truly out there.
Exactly.
Like we're trapped in this little box with these like noise-canceling headphones on,
Yeah.
missing out on a whole spectrum of,
Yeah, a whole other dimension of reality.
So if that's personhood,
Right.
what does he say lies beyond that limited perception?
That's where things get really interesting.
Right.
Spina believes that our true potential is far greater than we realize.
Okay.
He suggests that abilities like, clairvoyance, telekinesis, even self-healing
Wow.
are inherent aspects of our true nature.
Those are some pretty bold claims.
They are.
It makes you wonder what's holding us back from accessing those abilities.
That's a good question.
If they're already there.
Right.
Like, why aren't we all, flying around and reading each other's minds?
Well, he points to our subconscious mind
Okay.
as a major culprit.
Okay.
He calls it a limitation program.
That's been shaped by, societal conditioning and past traumas.
Right. Like we pick up so many beliefs and patterns from our environment growing up.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those beliefs, they limit us without us even realizing it.
Exactly. And these ingrained patterns, they drive our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. They can lead to these repetitive cycles of self-sabotage
Okay.
where we unconsciously undermine our own success.
Now that you mention it, I definitely think of a few examples of that in my own life.
Right.
It's almost like there's this invisible force pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's like we're running this outdated software,
Yeah.
Full of bugs and glitches
Yeah.
that prevent us from functioning at our full capacity.
Okay, so we have this incredible potential waiting to be unlocked,
We do.
but our subconscious mind is often holding us back.
Right.
So what does Spina say is the key to, breaking free from those limitations?
He emphasizes the power of detachment. Now, this isn't about, becoming emotionally distant or apathetic.
Right.
It's about releasing our attachment to specific outcomes
Okay.
and external validation.
Can you give an example of what that might look like in practice?
Sure. Imagine you're setting a GPS, to reach a destination.
Yeah.
Once you set that destination, you trust that the GPS will guide you there.
Right.
You don't constantly stop and check if you're on the right track,
Right.
doubting the GPS's abilities.
Okay, you just trust the process.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this could be.
Yeah.
It's about, letting go of that constant need to control everything
Yes.
and surrendering to the natural flow of life.
Precisely.
And that surrender, that opens us up to experiencing a deeper level of peace and fulfillment.
It does.
Spina believes that when we're not constantly fighting against the current,
Right.
we can finally tap into our true potential.
Exactly.
That makes me think of the saying, what you resist persists.
Yeah.
It seems like by letting go of our resistance,
Yes.
we create space for something new to emerge.
Absolutely.
So how does this idea of detachment connect to his views on self-realization and enlightenment?
Well, he sees self-realization and enlightenment as states of perpetual present moment awareness.
Okay.
In these states, we're free from the grip of our subconscious programming
Right.
and able to experience the world with clarity and joy.
So it's like we're finally free from the limitations of personhood and
Exactly.
able to access a much wider range of perception and awareness.
Yes.
It sounds incredibly freeing.
It
Almost
is.
like a weight has been lifted.
Yeah.
But it also makes me wonder if it's about being present in the moment.
Yeah.
How do we deal with challenging situations or negative emotions?
Mhm.
Do we just ignore them?
That's where his perspective on resistance comes in.
Okay.
He doesn't believe that resistance is like an inherent force,
Okay.
but rather a self-created phenomenon
Mm-hmm.
that arises from what he calls collapsed consciousness.
Collapsed consciousness.
Yeah.
Can you explain what he means by that?
So think of it like this. When we identify too strongly with our limited personhood, we create a sort of tunnel vision.
Okay.
We focus so much on the problem or the negative emotion that it becomes our entire reality.
So it's like we're magnifying the problem.
Yes.
Making it seem much bigger than it actually is.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Spina encourages us to view obstacles and challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth.
Okay.
He suggests that instead of avoiding discomfort, we should lean into it.
Okay.
And explore what it has to teach us.
That's a pretty radical perspective, isn't it?
It is.
It goes against our natural instinct to run away from pain and discomfort.
It does, but it's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
When we shift our mindset from fear to curiosity, we can transform any obstacle into a stepping stone on our path to self-realization.
I like that.
And nobody exemplifies this better than Spina himself.
Okay.
He actually went through a life-altering experience that completely transformed his perspective.
You're talking about his experience with sepsis and paralysis, right?
Exactly.
I've heard a bit about this, but I'd love to hear more.
It's a truly incredible story of resilience and self-healing.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed with severe sepsis and became paralyzed.
Wow.
But what's remarkable is that he says he didn't suffer.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
Oh.
He was paralyzed.
He woke up from surgery with this profound shift in consciousness.
Okay.
He describes it as this deep knowing of how to initiate his own healing process.
Wow.
Despite the dire predictions from doctors.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like he tapped into this hidden reserve of strength and wisdom that he didn't even know he had.
And incredible.
And he didn't just lie there and hope for the best.
Right.
He was relentless in his dedication to healing, pushing through immense pain and physical limitations.
So he's a walking testament to the power of the human spirit.
Absolutely.
And the potential that we all have within us. It makes you wonder what else is possible if we can tap into that deeper level of self.
Well, that's where things get really mind-bending.
Okay.
Spina suggests that there are levels of awareness, even beyond self-realization and enlightenment.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
There's something beyond enlightenment.
He says there is.
This is getting a bit too out there for me.
I know. What does he say it's like?
Well, it's difficult to put into words.
Okay.
But he describes it as a state of perpetual flow. Imagine being constantly connected to your higher self.
Yeah.
Acting from a place of intuition and inspiration in every moment.
Okay, I think I need a moment to process that.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in.
It is.
It's like saying we're only seeing a tiny sliver of the full picture.
Right.
But if that's true, how do we even begin to access these other levels of awareness?
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Well, it's a journey. It's not a destination, you know? And Spina emphasizes that even small shifts in awareness just can have a profound impact on our experience of reality. He often talks about how we're only accessing a tiny percentage of our true potential.
Yeah, I remember him mentioning that mind-blowing statistically. We're only experiencing 0.03% of what's possible.
Yeah.
Like we're playing this video game of life on the easiest setting, you know, completely oblivious to the vastness and complexity that's available.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
He also uses the image of a time-lapse camera.
Yeah.
Observing the changing seasons.
Okay.
The camera captures the entire process, but it remains unaffected by, you know, the heat, the cold, the wind, the rain. It's a detached observer.
Right.
And Spina suggests that we can cultivate that same sense of detached awareness in our own lives.
Okay, so we can be aware of our thoughts and emotions and experiences without getting swept away by them.
Yes.
But our minds are so good at getting caught up in the drama, you know?
They are.
Identifying with every little up and down. It's like we're addicted to the roller coaster of emotions, even when it's making us miserable. Well, he's very clear that pain and suffering aren't the same thing. Pain is a natural part of life.
Right.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
But suffering arises from our resistance to that pain, from our identification with it.
He talks about that a lot. Resistance being a self-created phenomenon.
Yes.
So if I understand correctly, he's saying it doesn't actually exist.
Right.
Outside of our own limited perception.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's like we're fighting against a ghost, you know?
Yeah.
Exhausting ourselves in a battle that doesn't need to be fought. The key is to recognize that resistance is an illusion and to allow ourselves to flow with the current of life, even when it feels uncomfortable.
Do you think his own experience with paralysis is an example of this in action?
Absolutely. He went through immense physical pain, but he maintains that he didn't suffer.
Why
That's because he chose not to identify with the pain. He remained detached, observing the experience from a higher level of awareness.
That's incredible to go through something so traumatic and still find a sense of peace within it.
It is.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
And he attributes his ability to heal his body to accessing that deeper level of self, the I am that he talks about.
Right, and he doesn't describe it in a way that's abstract or mystical. He describes the I am as this multifaceted I with a million sets of perceptions. It's almost like saying we have access to infinite possibilities, but we're only using a tiny fraction of our perceptive abilities.
It's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It makes me think of those optical illusions where you see one image and then suddenly your perspective shifts.
Right.
And you see something completely different.
Yeah.
It's like we're all staring at the same image, but there's a whole other reality hidden within it that we're not yet able to perceive.
And Spina suggests that the more we let go of our attachment to body consciousness, the more those perceptions begin to open up.
So it's like we're expanding our bandwidth, tuning into a higher frequency of awareness.
Exactly. And this leads us to the question of what lies beyond self-realization and enlightenment. Spina hints that there's even more to discover.
Now you're really blowing my mind. If enlightenment is just the beginning.
I know, it's pretty wild.
What else is out there? What does that even look like?
Well, it's difficult to put into words, but he describes it as a state of perpetual flow. Imagine being constantly connected to your higher self, acting from a place of intuition and inspiration in every moment.
And he says we can actually tap into that flow state in our everyday lives.
Yes. Think about those moments when you're completely absorbed in what you're doing. Time seems to disappear and everything just clicks. Those are glimpses of our true potential. Those moments of effortless creativity and joy.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes when I'm writing, I get into this zone where the words just flow effortlessly. It's like I'm channeling something greater than myself.
Exactly.
It feels amazing.
And Spina emphasizes that we don't need to wait for some grand awakening to experience this. We can cultivate flow state by pursuing our passions, by doing the things that light us up.
So our highest excitement is actually a signpost.
It is.
Pointing us towards our true purpose.
Yes, and he warns us not to ignore those intuitive nudges. If we keep putting off the things that excite us, eventually that inner voice will fade away.
It's like we're given these breadcrumbs leading us back to our true selves, but we keep choosing to wander off in the opposite direction.
Unfortunately, that's what many people do. They get stuck in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, and routines that stifle their creativity. They feel trapped and unfulfilled.
So what do you do if you find yourself in that situation? Is it possible to find flow and a sense of purpose, even when you're surrounded by circumstances that feel soul-crushing?
Well, Spina actually addresses this directly. He says that when things feel like they're collapsing, when life gets tough, that's a sign to tap into more of who you are, not less.
So it's like the universe is giving you a nudge saying, hey, it's time to level up.
Exactly.
You're capable of so much more than this.
Right. And he shares his own story of how he went from being paralyzed and broke to having a thriving career as a healer and teacher.
Wow. He didn't plan it. It just happened organically.
He simply followed his passion. He started teaching meditation and helping others, and the universe responded by opening doors and presenting him with opportunities he never could have imagined.
It's like when you finally surrender to the flow of life, things just start falling into place.
Right, because you're no longer resisting. You're aligning yourself with the natural order of things. And Spina makes this really interesting point about expectations. He says that even the grandest of expectations can become a limitation.
How so? Aren't expectations important for achieving our goals?
They can be, but Spina cautions that when we become too fixated on a specific outcome, we close ourselves off to other possibilities that might be even better.
It's like we're putting blinders on ourselves. Only allowing ourselves to see what we think we want. And missing out on all the amazing opportunities that might be right in front of us.
Precisely. And we miss out on the magic of the unexpected. Those serendipitous detours that can lead us to something truly extraordinary. So the key takeaway here is to trust the process,
Okay.
to follow your excitement, and to be open to the infinite possibilities that exist.
Because when you let go of control and surrender to the flow, that's when the real magic happens.
And Spina's life is a testament to that. He went through the ultimate collapse, and it led him to his greatest expansion.
It's a beautiful reminder that sometimes the most difficult experiences can be the catalysts for our greatest growth.
Yes.
And that even when things seem impossible, there's always a way through.
There is. Yeah, it's like that old saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Right, totally. And Spina really encourages us to examine those plans.
He does.
To question those deeply held beliefs that might be holding us back.
Yeah, he actually shares a story about how his own perspective on spiritual growth kind of evolved over time. He used to do past life readings for people.
Okay.
But he eventually realized that he was actually reinforcing their sense of personhood.
Wait, hold on. How was he doing that? Past life readings seem pretty spiritual, pretty expansive. How could that be limiting?
Well, by giving people, these detailed accounts of their past lives, he was inadvertently encouraging them to identify with those past experiences.
Okay.
Adding more layers to their sense of self.
So instead of helping people transcend their ego,
right,
he was actually feeding it more information to latch onto.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder that even the pursuit of enlightenment can become a trap if we're not careful.
It can.
Right.
True liberation comes from letting go of all identifications, not clinging to them, even if they're spiritual or esoteric.
Right.
He realized that a lot of people aren't seeking true liberation. They're just seeking a bigger and better version of their current reality.
They want more money, more success, more stuff.
Right.
More stuff?
They want to upgrade their life.
Yeah.
But they're still operating from the level of ego. It's like rearranging the furniture on the Titanic.
Exactly.
Right.
And true fulfillment comes from transcending that ego.
Okay.
From recognizing that we're already whole and complete. And this brings us to Spina's perspective on love.
Okay.
Which is quite unique. He says it's possible to fall in love with everyone you meet.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds a bit unrealistic, don't you think? Is he talking about romantic love here?
No, not necessarily. He's talking about recognizing the divine spark in every being.
Okay.
When you see through the illusion of separation, you can experience this deep sense of love and connection with everyone you encounter.
That makes more sense. It's about seeing ourselves reflected in everyone else.
Right.
Realizing that we're all interconnected.
Exactly. It's not about forcing connections or trying to please everyone.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a sense of compassion and understanding. So it starts with looking within, healing our own wounds, and releasing those limiting beliefs that prevent us from experiencing true love.
Precisely because when we're filled with love ourselves, it naturally radiates outwards.
Listening to all of this, I'm struck by how much Spina's message emphasizes our own agency.
Yeah.
Our ability to choose our experience. He's not saying that we're victims of our circumstances or our past.
Right.
He's empowering us to tap into this incredible potential that already exists within us.
And he gives us practical tools and techniques to do just that.
Yeah.
He encourages us to question everything,
Yeah.
to challenge our assumptions,
Yeah.
and to step into the unknown.
Because it's in the unknown, in that space beyond our comfort zones, that we discover who we truly are. And that's the ultimate adventure, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So this deep dive into Spina's work has been a wild ride.
It has.
Full of mind-bending concepts and inspiring insights.
It has.
I hope it's left you with a lot to think about and maybe even a few aha moments.
Me too. One thing that really sticks with me is this idea that we are capable of so much more than we realize.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've been given this incredible toolbox.
Yeah.
But we're only using a hammer and a screwdriver.
Right.
There's so much more we can do.
Yes.
So much more we can experience if we just open ourselves up to the possibilities.
That's the perfect takeaway. Trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Follow your excitement and never stop exploring the depths of your own being. Who knows what you might discover?
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of human potential. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep